Hello, guys, and welcome to Odds on Bundesliga Match Day 2. We saw many surprises in Match Day 1. But actually, Ronan, you were really accurate in your tips. The ACCA, the safe bet, and most of the best were correct, including, again, some surprises like Augsburg and Cologne winning away. It was very difficult to understand and to know the defeat of Leverkusen at home. Really bad start for 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Hello, Ronan.
Yeah, it was. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 has work to do. Hello. It looks like it's going to be a long season for Bayer Leverkusen, and it could be even longer if they keep selling the players, because the latest news out of Leverkusen this week is 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is going to the Premier League. So yeah, they just keep selling players. So things are getting more difficult by the day for Erik ten Hag. I know they're bringing some players in, but it doesn't seem the same. It doesn't seem the same kind of caliber of player they're bringing in, because these maybe are players they want to develop rather than players that will do the business right now. So it's going to be hard for them to come second again, obviously, but it might even be hard for them to finish in the top 4 this season, because yeah, it's one of those kind of unpredictable seasons so far. But luckily, we didn't go for too many winners last week. There was value, obviously, in the goal market, and we might have a look at the same today.
Well, and another important thing is do not trust Borussia Dortmund. It's very easy that your ACCA is ruined if you are trusting Borussia Dortmund, especially playing away. But we are going to analyze everything in this video. Just take a pen and a piece of paper, because Ronan was spot on in his first tip. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about Ronan and about the Bundesliga. Guys, stay with us, and if you enjoy our videos, don't forget to press the like, to leave your comments. And now let's go on with the show. And Ronan, I'm not sure if I'm exaggerating saying that this is one of the best games of the season. The derby in Hamburg. You are going to tell me for sure how many years since we saw this game in the top flight division. Hamburg, St. Pauli. Hamburg newly promoted team. St. Pauli only 2 seasons ago promoted to Bundesliga, and both got positive results in the first match day. Hamburg getting a draw against Gladbach. Actually, they scored a goal in the very last minute, but it was cancelled by VAR. And St. Pauli, it looks like they were going to lose the game against Dortmund, as most of us expected, but they scored 2 goals in the last 5 minutes to save a point. What a game this one. What an atmosphere I'm sure we are going to see in the Hamburg Stadium.
Yes, yeah. You ask how many years it is. It's 7 years since Hamburg have been in the Bundesliga, but 11 years, or it's even longer. It's 14 years. 2011 it's the first Hamburg derby in the top flight since 2011. So yeah, it's the first home game for Hamburg in the Volkspark Stadium in 7 years in the Bundesliga. So it will be a kind of a huge game, and what a way to welcome back the Bundesliga to Hamburg's home stadium, to HSV's home stadium, by playing their traditional rivals. And last week they both had good results. Like you said, it was the first time in 10 years that no promoted side lost on match day 1 of the Bundesliga season, and it was the first time since 1991 since no promoted side conceded a goal on the opening day of the first match day. So yeah, very good for Hamburg and Cologne last week. But St. Pauli, even better probably for them, because nobody expected them to get a point against Borussia Dortmund, especially when they were losing 3-1 with just 10 minutes remaining. But the red card changed everything, and yeah, what a result for St. Pauli. And they've proven maybe that they can score goals at home, because they scored so few last season. They've already nearly caught up with the amount of home goals they've scored this season already. But yeah, this match, generally, it tends to be kind of a close affair, but Hamburg tend to win it when they're playing at home. I know they haven't played as much as they have in the past, but yeah, they have been playing in the second division in recent years. Back in 2023-24, it was 1-0 in the Volkspark Stadium. It was 2-2 in the return leg. St. Pauli haven't won at the Volkspark Stadium since 2020, and the last 3 derbies where Hamburg were playing at home, Hamburg won. So Yeah, the most common result in this one is a 2-2 draw. That's happened, I think, 4 times in the past 70 years. Is that what I'm going to say? 60. It's since the Bundesliga formed. They've had 4 2-2 draws. So that's 1963. Obviously, so my maths would tell me that's 62 years, isn't it? So the all-time Hamburg are way ahead in the all-time record in the Hamburg derby. 70 wins to St. Pauli's 24, 17 draws. But this one should be a very exciting game. So we're going for both teams to score yes, 169. But as well as that, because Hamburg usually are so good at home against their derby rivals, we're going Hamburg draw no bet. Looks like a good option, which is more or less the exact same kind of odds, 170. So either of them looks like a good tip for this one.
𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 is going for under 2.5 goals. George is telling us that I like both teams to score. Here in Oddspedia, we are showing the last 8 years, the head-to-head in the last 8 years, and it's pretty level actually. 4 wins for Hamburg, 3 draws, and 5 wins for St. Pauli. Great game, great atmosphere for a Friday evening. I can imagine that it's a good city in Europe to go and have a drink after the game and enjoy the derby. Well, and for Saturday, we have 5 games. First one is an interesting one, Hoffenheim Frankfurt, because Hoffenheim was the biggest surprise of the previous weekend, beating Leverkusen away and coming back from behind. It was a shocker seeing them beating the runners-up, especially also because last season they were struggling a lot. And on the other hand, we have Frankfurt, one of the best teams last weekend and also in the previous season, smashing Werder Bremen 4-1 at home, despite the sales that we spoke last week, despite 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 still scoring goals for Liverpool. This time we saw 𝐵𝗏𝗏 scoring a brace.
Yeah, boy, it was a very good performance for him. He showed that Frankfurt maybe have other options in attack. We mentioned Richard Duan on the show last week. So, yeah, they do have other ways to score goals, and we've seen that in the past. Frankfurt are great at developing forwards. They've sold so many of them for such big money. Sebastian Haller, Luka Jovic, Ante Rebic, then obviously Marmoush and 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿. So they shouldn't be too concerned that they're not able to, they don't have those guys around this season, but they do have other players capable of scoring. And 𝐶𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿, he was the youngest Frankfurt player in 20 or more years. So since Opta started calculating the data or recording the data, he contributed 3 goals in a game for Eintracht Frankfurt. He got a goal and 2 assists last week. So this is another one that there should be plenty of goals in. The most common result here is 3-1 to Frankfurt, believe it or not. And for the last 5 meetings between the sides have been a 3-1 win for one team or the other. 3 of those were for Frankfurt. 1 of those was for Hoffenheim, obviously. And the most recent meeting also had 4 goals in it. It was a 2-2 draw in January. So total goals over 3 could be a good option here. Both teams to score yes, obviously feeds into that too. Total goals over 3 is 186. Both teams to score yes, like you're seeing on the screen there, is 150. Frankfurt winning over 25, over 2.5. Cash out King is suggesting that could be a good option because Hoffenheim, they suffered a couple of injuries in that first game of the season. It was a great result against Bayer Leverkusen, but 𝐋𝐞𝐿, he suffered an ACL injury, so he's going to be out for a long time, and they're already in negotiations to replace him, and maybe by this evening they'll have replaced him. Wouter Burger as well, he had an ankle injury, forced off, but they're more optimistic that he could only be out for a short time, so they do have a couple of injuries early on to their kind of first choice 11, so that could stand against them. But I really like the look of the Hoffenheim attack this season, and it's something we complained about a lot last season, especially with Kramaric not scoring. 𝗔znik Asllani, he was brilliant in the game. He got a goal and assist. He was brilliant on loan last season at Elversberg in the Zweite Liga. He got 18 goals in 35 games, I think it was, for Elversberg. So he could be a good option as an anytime goal scorer for 320, but a bit safer considering he got a goal and assist last week. Could be 𝗔znik Asllani to score or assist 210 in this match.
Well, everyone expects goals here. 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 for Frankfurt and over 1.5 goals. Both teams to score is expensive. San Martin is telling us Frankfurt to win and over 2.5 goals. I got Frankfurt double chance and both teams to score. Actually, last weekend, all the games played on Saturday, so both teams to score, and we saw a big amount of goals in the previous weekend, as you suggested, by the way. So it was, again, spot on. And let's try to see more goals in the RB Leipzig. Heidenheim both started the season pretty badly, same as last season. Actually, a pitiful start for Leipzig. It's true that you are starting in the Allianz Arena, and it's never easy, but 6-0 is not the best way to start for Ole Werner's team, with Openda or Xavi Simons, for instance, in the start in that game in Munich, and also it was not the best way to start for Heidenheim, losing to Wolfsburg at home 3-1. Remember, last season they struggled until the end to get safe. Ronan, I guess... I'm not sure if it's disappointing about RB Leipzig, but they have to wake up, not playing in Europe and showing this poor level. Something must be done.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Manchester United season where they're not in Europe, so they have no excuses that they're playing kind of midweek and then at the weekend. So yeah, there's no excuses for RB Leipzig and Ole Werner either this season. There was no excuses really in that performance, but David Raum, the Leipzig defender, came out and said after the match that maybe it was better for them that the match was happened at the beginning of the season, because they've got it out of the way and they can learn a lot from it. But yeah, I'm not sure they learned a lot in the second half, because their heads just kind of dropped after that disallowed goal, ridiculously disallowed goal. If you saw it, the VAR called it back, it seemed a couple of minutes later, because the ball was rolling when a free kick was taken in Leipzig's own half in the build-up to the goal, which the DFB have come out after and said that it shouldn't have been disallowed, because that isn't something that the referee should have checked in the build-up to the goal. So both teams to score actually would have came in there, but it didn't. But Bayern did get all the goals we expected and even more. But yeah, Xavi Simons, you mentioned, he could actually be in this lineup again this weekend. He was in it last weekend. He's played in the Cup, and according to reports in Bild, the move to Chelsea doesn't seem anywhere close at the moment, and we know the transfer window closes in less than a week. So, yeah, they're running out of time to sell him. So maybe Xavi Simons is going to be a RB Leipzig player this season. And Marcel Schäfer said after the match too, Xavi will, as right now, continue to play for Leipzig. The transfer window is opening and things can always change, but for now he's our player and will be part of the squad for the next games. So expect him to be in the lineup if there hasn't been any movement since, and he could be a player that provides some goals. Hopefully he does, because RB Leipzig need to score goals themselves. They have obviously shown they can concede lots of goals. Heidenheim have also shown they can concede lots of goals. These teams are averaging 5 goals conceded between them so far in the Bundesliga. But there was one positive for Heidenheim from that game, was Sienza's free kick goal. It was his third direct free kick goal in 2025. That's the most of any player in the top 5 leagues in Europe, surprisingly. But Frank Schmidt, the Heidenheim coach, said after the match, we can't play like this in the Bundesliga, and they can't. And like we predicted maybe last week, Heidenheim are going to get relegated this season. So it's a good chance, if you think RB Leipzig to win, to maybe put them in your ACCA, but I don't trust RB Leipzig. Does anybody? Over goals could be the market here, because both teams are really leaky. RB Leipzig are showing they can score some goals. So over 1.25 first half goals, 196 could be a decent option. And total goals over 2.75 for the entire 90 minutes is 172.
We have 𝐿𝐿 telling us that Leipzig should do better and win. Playing at home, indeed, they should improve. Another two teams that were disappointing in the first match day were Stuttgart and Gladbach. Stuttgart lost to Union Berlin 2-1 with a goal cancelled by VAR also in the very last minute, in the 97th minute. And Gladbach, we already spoke how they were unable to beat Hamburg, playing at home in the first game. So again, two disappointing teams, perhaps even more Stuttgart. We expect more from them.
Yeah, we do. We kind of expected this maybe a little from Gladbach, especially with the Gladbach form we saw last season. The fact that Gladbach decided to keep their coach, even though you're kind of scratching your head wondering why they did, because they weren't really showing too many promising signs, and they did not show them in the opening game. They just had one big chance in the match against Hamburg, a promoted team at home, who on the first day of the season back in the Bundesliga after 7 years. This is a team that you should be putting in your kind of best performance again. They didn't really. They only had 4 shots on target. Nearly half of their 17 shots were outside the area, and over half of them, 9 of 17, were off target. They weren't even blocked or anything. They were just bad shots. Stuttgart, on the other hand, like you're saying, you expect more from them, and they expected more from themselves, because that's kind of the way they were talking after the match, that they didn't make their chances count against Union Berlin. They had 21 total shots and an XG of 1.72, but they were unable to convert that into that one goal, like you said. They kind of let it slip, and they left it too late to come back into it, but they should be able to kind of turn things around here against Borussia Monchengladbach. The most common result in Stuttgart, 1-0. Most common result in this match between the two sides is a 1-1. Stuttgart have been playing out 2-1 losses so far this season. The Super Cup against Bayern before that was a 2-1 loss. Gladbach, they had a lower division team in the cup. They were able to score goals in that one, but I don't think they will be as good against a team of the might of Stuttgart if they can't do much against Hamburg. So Stuttgart win at 165 on the screen. Looks pretty good. But this one could go against the opposite of what we've been saying about most Bundesliga games so far this season. Total goals under 3.25. I do not think this is one that you should be tuning into and expecting a lot to happen in.
Do you like Stiller, by the way? Alain was telling me that it was rumored that he might join Real Madrid. Do you think he's ready for a bigger challenge? Do you think Stuttgart could let him go?
Yeah, he was linked to Liverpool as well earlier in the summer before. Obviously, they made all their signings. But yeah, he is a player that has that potential to kind of reach the highest level. But I'm wondering, you kind of wonder, is he quite there yet? Or does he need some sort of a move in between Stuttgart and Real Madrid? Because it's such a big step up from Stuttgart to Real Madrid. I know Stuttgart are obviously consider themselves to be a top 4 team in Germany now, but they need to show that kind of regularly. And Stiller kind of needs to show that he can be a consistent player in midfield for them. But he definitely has all the tools to be a top quality midfielder. He is excellent on and off the ball, so I can see why he is kind of so highly regarded. But you maybe wonder how he does this season. See him play in Europe a bit more, and then maybe make a move from next summer. Although if he does impress, there will be a bigger market. But when Real Madrid come calling, not many players say no.
Well, already the transfer fee that apparently Stuttgart was asking was pretty high, indeed, even for Real Madrid or Liverpool. Well, next game, another 2 teams that started really badly, Werder Bremen, Leverkusen. Actually, one of the anecdotes of the weekend, a funny one, was after the defeat of Werder Bremen 4-1 in Frankfurt, the captain exchanged T-shirts with a Frankfurt player, and he went on to the post-interview with the journalist, and he was asked if he was happy. And the player, Ronan, was saying, look, even if I have the Frankfurt T-shirt, remember, I'm still a Werder Bremen player. It was a funny one anyway, but really poor start for Werder Bremen. And what to say about Leverkusen? All our eyes was on Ten Hag. I think he suffered a lot of criticism around Man United when he was managing Man United. But of course, we know how difficult this job position is. And starting losing the first game at home against a weak team like Hoffenheim is not the best start, that's for sure.
No, it's definitely not. You want to win your home games, especially your opening home game as a new manager of a club, because that was their first competitive match under Ten Hag in the Bayer Arena, because you play away in the cup usually as the Bundesliga side, because you're playing a lower division team in the first round of the cup. So yeah, it's not the best way to kind of show these fans that you are the man to replace Xabi Alonso at Bayer Leverkusen. It hasn't been great so far for Eric Ten Hag, but hopefully he can turn it around, because Werder Bremen, they look like, regardless of what jerseys the players are wearing, maybe they were wearing the opposite team jerseys last week, they look terrible. They haven't really signed anybody. It's going to be a long season unless they get busy between now and the end of the transfer window, and this could be the perfect opportunity for Leverkusen to rack up some goals. They only had 2 shots on target in the game against Hoffenheim, 0.71 XG. They weren't really creating anything. They keep selling every player. I mean, 𝗛𝐿 was the latest one kind of out the door, and he didn't even do anything for Leverkusen. And you kind of wonder, yeah, even the kind of fringe players or the players that weren't contributing a lot have gone out the door this summer. So there's just such a turnover in everything that I was considering Leverkusen as my safe bet, but then I was like, maybe not. Maybe it's not the safest of safe bets. I'll try it in the ACCA, but maybe not the safe bet. Here, the most common result in Bremen is a 2-1 win for Bremen, actually. And the most common result in the match is a 2-2 draw. But recently, Leverkusen have tended to be the better team, but not last season, surprisingly. Bremen won 2-0 away against Leverkusen, and last season it was 2-2 in Bremen. So this could be a match where both teams score 152, but Bremen so far this season, they've done nothing to show me they can beat anybody or pick up points against most teams. They lost 1-0 to Arminia Bielefeld in the cup. They were diabolical in that. Leverkusen were much better to beat SG 4-0, so they at least have a competitive win this season. Bremen could be waiting a while for theirs. I think Leverkusen to win at 205, like we were showing on the screen there a second ago, doesn't look too bad. And you could even go Asian handicap -0.5 is my main tip for this one, because I think this is the match that Leverkusen are going to win. And regardless of who's on the field, they should be much stronger depending on what transfers come in and go out before the weekend. But there are kind of things irons in the fire, as they say, that Leverkusen are looking to buy some players before this game, and maybe they'll be a stronger team, but it doesn't really matter. Even Bremen's B team should be beating, or Leverkusen's B team should be beating this Werder Bremen team at the moment.
Well, a lot of questions to be asked this season, the post-Xavi Alonso's era cash out king. I will pass this game. Probably we need a bit of time. Probably we should also wait to judge Ten Hag. Again, it's not easy after you come from Man United, and also it's not easy to fill Xavi Alonso's shoes in Bayer Leverkusen. But we will see. For sure, the top favorite this season, and they showed us even in the first match day, is Bayern Munich. Probably they are not going to have any rival this season again. Amazing start with Harry Kane making what he does better, score goals. Also, Luis Diaz has landed in pretty good shape at the Allianz Arena. They are playing cup game, by the way, on Wednesday, and this is a derby. They are playing Augsburg, a friend team for Bayern Munich. Also, great start for Augsburg, beating Freiburg 1-3. The odds were 4.4 for Augsburg to win. You tipped actually double chance for Augsburg, so great start for both teams actually.
Yeah, it was, and a great start for Sancho Wagner in the Bundesliga as the Augsburg manager, and yeah, he kind of had a masterclass in counter-attacking. He said after the match, we knew Freiburg struggle against a team in a deep block, and that's what they did. They kind of sat back and then they hit on the counter, so they're probably hoping that they can do the same against Bayern Munich, but Bayern Munich's attack is a lot better than the Freiburg attack. So when they get in around the goals, you know they can cause problems. And like you said, Luis Diaz caused plenty of problems. Harry Kane got a hat-trick, his 8th hat-trick in the Bundesliga. It took him 300, or he only got as many 8 hat-tricks in 320 Premier League games, but it's only taken him 64 Bundesliga games to get 8 hat-tricks, and that was his 3rd German hat-trick, as they call it. It doesn't count as a hat-trick in the English sense of the word in Germany unless it's all in the one half. So that was the 3rd time he did that, the 3 goals in a row for Bayern Munich. So yeah, him as an anytime goal scorer looks good every match. Just bet on it every week. If he's starting from here until the end of the season, just bet every week. Harry Kane, anytime goal scorer. It's 153. It's going to happen more often than not. Michael 𝐿𝐴, like 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 is saying in our comments, as an anytime goal scorer, yeah, I like the look of that. But if you combine that with a score or assist, because he has been providing assists for that man, Harry Kane, that's 162 for 𝐿𝐴 to score or assist. And Bayern Munich, when they play Augsburg, they score goals, and they score lots of goals. They've scored 3 or more goals the last 6 times they played Augsburg. So every time they played Augsburg, the last 6 times, they've scored 3 or more goals. They've scored 5 goals in 2 of those 6 games. So they're going to score goals again here, even though Sandro Wagner is prepared to play that deep block, has come out with the blocks really well against Freiburg. He can still concede it to Freiburg, so you'll definitely concede to Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich over 2.5 goals, 183.
Well, and it looks like Nico Jackson might arrive to Munich. A strange move. Well, they need some attacking players to replace or give some rest to Kane or Luis Diaz, but Nico Jackson, right now, striker number 3 in Chelsea's squad, is a bit odd. Well, you are tipping Kane. Omojoma is going for Olise. Anytime scorer. We'll keep it simple. Bayern win and over 1.5 goals for George Armando. Bayern will start strong before Champions League starts. Actually, in 2-3 weeks' time, we have the Champions League back, indeed. So we are very happy. Next game, Wolfsburg Mainz. Wolfsburg beat Heidenheim 3-1 away, so great start. Now they are favorites, 2.2. And Mainz, tricky start of the season. They lost to Cologne 1-0. Also, you predicted that. You tipped Cologne double chance here. And be careful also because they are playing conference on Thursday and they lost 2-1 in Norway against Rosenborg. I remember Rosenborg when they had John Carew, for instance, and they were playing Champions League a long time ago. I'm getting older, Ronan. So Mainz also keeping an eye on the conference on Thursday.
Yeah, Aston Villa legend John Carew, I think. Yeah, that's where he went after impressing. Yeah, impressing for Rosenborg. Yeah, that wasn't today or yesterday. So some of our viewers might have to look for those highlights on YouTube. They mightn't have them just to recall in their memory like we do. But yeah, Mainz, it's a very kind of busy schedule for them at the moment because they're trying to qualify for the Conference League. And Dani da Costa was asked about it after the match. Were they just too tired? Is that the problem? And he said he didn't think so. For me, it had nothing to do with being tired. But like I kind of said, Mainz don't have the deepest of squads. And playing on a Thursday and then playing on a Sunday in the Bundesliga, haven't played the Cup as well. It's not really going well for Mainz at the moment. And they have Rosenborg again this Thursday, like you said. Obviously, they've lost 2 games in a row. They only beat Dresden 1-0 in the Cup. I think it's going to be kind of a tricky period for Mainz, and maybe they would actually be better off not qualifying for the Conference League, and then they could focus on the Bundesliga. But I suppose there's a lot of money to be won when you're playing in Europe. So, yeah, that's what they have to do. And Paul Neibel, the Irish eligible German midfielder, German under-21 or former under-21 midfielder, he's suspended after that red card that kind of handed the game to Cologne maybe a little. He was sent off after 60 minutes. So Mainz, they would have been more tired because they had to play the last half an hour against Cologne with only 10 men. So on the other hand, Wolfsburg, very good start for them. Their coach, Paul Siemenens, how we talked about him last week, he's been called the 𝗀𝗲𝗿𝗀 by German media because of where he's from in the Netherlands. It's a big cheese place. He's actually near the city of Gouda or town of Gouda. He said that it's nothing to do with him. Maybe it's the other way around. He said he was already bald before Guardiola was bald. So maybe Guardiola took inspiration from him. Yeah, so the 𝗀𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗀, that's the one to keep an eye on for this season as Wolfsburg manager. But so far, so good. They look really good. Mohamed Almoura came off the bench. He looked pretty sharp. He's wanted by Benfica, but if he stays at Wolfsburg, he could be really useful this season. He scored 10 goals in the Bundesliga last season. He is an anytime goal scorer of a 3.05 for this one, which I like the look of, but that all depends on whether he's still at the club at the weekend because he is a wanted man. But if he is, maybe it could be a decent option. I wouldn't bet a lot on it, but it's a one to keep an eye on. Wolfsburg are scoring goals aplenty. They scored 3 in the league last week. They scored 9 in the cup the week before. So they're averaging 6 goals per game. So I imagine they can get 1 or 2 here. So they can win this one. Wolfsburg 2.15 when I looked last night, but it's now 2.20, even better. Wolfsburg to win. I'm going for on this one.
Well, 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐵 is saying that their main focus should be the conference, and is asking you if they can still qualify to the conference. I guess so, right?
Yeah, I think so. They're only 2-1 down after the first leg, and we know anything can happen in the second leg. We know anything can happen whether you're home or away. We've seen kind of some great results in the first leg of games already in the conference for a couple of Irish teams. It could be the first time ever that two teams from the League of Ireland play in the league phase in Europe, and that could happen this week in the conference. So, yeah, I'll have all my eyes on different games maybe than Mainz. I'll be keeping an eye on Shelbourne and Shamrock Rovers, but I'll watch the Mainz highlights after if they get through. If not, maybe I'll think that it might be a blessing in disguise for them not to get into the Conference League.
Almaty Celtic is another good one in the Champions League in this case, but perhaps we see Almaty in the Champions League phase, and even some other big team. Well, I mean big teams coming from big leagues like Crystal Palace or Rayo Vallecano. They struggle and they only won 1-0. So we know then the big teams usually succeed in the conference, but this playoff round is coming a little bit early. Also, we saw it with Strasbourg Brøndby in the French league, for instance, how they struggle. Going back to the German Bundesliga, Dortmund Union Berlin is the next one. We expected Dortmund to win in Hamburg against St. Pauli. They were 1-3 up, leading in the 85th minute, but they couldn't win the game. They ended with 10 men playing. Your tip about 𝐿𝐵𝐺𝐺𝐻 was correct. He scored the first goal, but again, very inconsistent when they are playing away from home. A great result, on the other hand, for Union Berlin, as we said also in the previous week, getting very strong when they are playing at home.
Yeah, this is kind of the two teams that are good at home playing each other. So the team that's home is probably going to win, but it's hard to bet on Borussia Dortmund to win a match. Just like it's hard to bet on RB Leipzig to win a match. So we're going to look at different markets maybe for this one. 𝐵𝗏𝗏 Mane is suspended for Borussia Dortmund after his red card. So it's kind of going to be interesting to see who they do who fills in the back, because they're playing a back five underneath 𝐿𝐵𝗏𝗏 at the moment. Julian Ryerson, is he to come in and maybe might shuffle, kind of play some fullbacks at centre back, or will they play Kabar, one of the young guys? He's a left back, or Yannick Loers, he played a small bit last season at centre back. He's another young player kind of that was on the bench last week. So they might have a somewhat inexperienced back line in this one. They could have some signings before Sunday, obviously, with the Chelsea guys kind of moving to Borussia Dortmund. So Anselmino and Chukwuemeka are both kind of coming to Borussia Dortmund, so that should help. Niko Kovac said in the match against St. Pauli that he could have taken off 6 of his starting 11. He was that annoyed with them after, but somehow news has emerged from Dortmund this morning that Niko Kovac has been given a contract extension after that 3-3 with St. Pauli. He's got a new contract confirmed this morning. Obviously, one match doesn't actually change the outcome of a manager usually, because he has been fantastic since taking over Borussia Dortmund, but it's kind of an unusual time to announce it. Maybe they should have waited until they won a match and then kind of announce it after. But yeah, the big story from there was an unusual incident in the Borussia Dortmund match 2. Joe Bellingham's parents accosted some of the staff members, and kind of his father was angry at the fact that Joe Bellingham was taken off by Niko Kovac. And yeah, now what's happened is parents and families are banned from the dressing room and the tunnel after the match. So Borussia Dortmund has decided no more of this. We're not going to happen on it. But yeah, Lars Ricken he's come out and said that this is not going to happen, but it's all been resolved and there's no drama. But yeah, he'd prefer if this wasn't reported by the media. But, yeah, so things off the pitch kind of are a bigger story for Borussia Dortmund. They need to make things on the pitch happen again. Union Berlin, they did have a good result against Stuttgart, but those 2 goals were their only 2 shots on target. They had an XG of just 0.35, which they were able to convert into those 2 goals. Ilyas Ansah was the first Union Berlin player to score twice on his Bundesliga debut. So that was an amazing statistic, but it's going to be a lot harder travelling to Dortmund. I think Serhou Guirassy as an anytime goal scorer, we said it, like you said, it came in last week. So we might go for that again. It looks pretty good at 173. Better odds than Harry Kane scoring each week. But Harry Kane ends up with the the top scorer title because he scores 3 goals and 2 goals in games. But 𝗲𝗏𝗏 couldn't score a second. He missed the spot last week, but we only need him to score 1, so 173 for that one. And Borussia Dortmund to score twice, 2 or more goals, over 2 goals is 160. I like that one. As always, if it's exactly 2, make sure you're getting a refund.
Well, 𝗲𝗏𝗏 anytime a scorer looks like the best option also for cash out, and for 𝗛𝗲𝗏𝗀 thinks Dortmund will concede again in this game. And the last game is Cologne. Freiburg, great comeback for Cologne into the Bundesliga, winning in Mainz. As we said, Walter scored the goal in the last minute for Freiburg. Was the opposite. They were 0-3 at halftime already against Augsburg.
Yeah, it was not a good game for Freiburg last week, and we obviously mentioned it when we were talking about Augsburg, the way that Augsburg had set up, and they struggled to create chances. Their only goal was a penalty in that match, and they Cologne as well, they didn't get a lot of shots away. They only had 2 shots on target. They obviously scored in the 90th minute, so they left it late to score, even though they were playing against 10 men for half an hour. So these teams have been struggling to create good opportunities. They've had a few, but good opportunities or clear goal-scoring chances are kind of at a minimum. The most common result is a 1-0 in this match. Cologne haven't been defeated yet in the 25-26 season. They've won or drawn every game in the league, and in pre-season, the friendlies, they just haven't lost yet. So this one could be a draw at 365 on the screen. I don't think it's too bad. It was a 0-0 in the last meeting back in 23-24 when Cologne were back in the Bundesliga. But if you look at the stats, this one does not tend to be an entertaining match. Both teams to score no has happened in all of the last 5 meetings. Could happen again here because it doesn't look like a good match to finish off the match day with. So both teams to score no, 2.05. That looks like the best bet in this.
Well, on Sunday last weekend, we didn't see many goals. Actually, we only saw 1 goal in the 2 games, so perhaps we go for the same this week. First half draw for 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐿. Well, all the games analyzed. Guys, before we say goodbye, remember that we have our tipster competitions going on, getting close to September, so you can participate in our September monthly competition. For instance, there you go. In August is almost over, and these people are going to earn some money, which is very, very good. Only for signing up and participating in our tipster competitions. And check out, we also have rivals where you can create your own tipster competition and play with your friends or join a public one. There should be some competition about the Bundesliga. Ronan, again, last week you nailed ACCA and safe bet. Let's go with your safe bet.
Yeah, my safe bet here is Bayern over 2 goals at 133.
And the ACCA?
My ACCA is Leverkusen, Asian handicap 0. Bayern over 2 goals. Wolfsburg, Asian handicap 0 for a total of 313.
Okay, safe bet, 𝐬𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐿 to score is a good one, actually. Maybe we can combine it with 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏 to score, and we have a good double. Well, Ronan, thank you. See you next week with the European games, with the UEFA qualifiers. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.